Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our commodity technical analysis update. I'll give you my financial opinions on what I see in the markets. And if you guys need any help with anything commodity related, definitely check out finding-value.com, the website, become a platinum member, use the word discount in the coupon code. We do have a Sunday 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time platinum question and answer session. So if you'd like to join and ask some questions, definitely join the community. Come on over, and everyone's welcome, irrespective of what you know in the markets. So let's dive through here. I'll give you my opinions. We've got the DXY, which is the dollar index. Now, we've seen commodities go up with an increasing DXY. A lot of the times what happens is you get that kind of in the first half of a commodity bull market where interest rates are increasing. A lot of the times the dollar moves on higher, especially if other currencies are having problems. So this isn't a perfect measurement, I'll say. It's just a relative measurement. And right now we're getting the dollar moving all over the place these past week or so. We've had large up movements, large down movements. We've had lots of volatility in the currency markets. That could be tied with the Japanese yen and the euro, basically what the dollar is being measured against in this DXY. So we've seen a lot of volatility in the dollar the past week or two. It's flat today. Looking at the 10-year yield, definitely higher today, probably from Powell's comments saying that he has to make an unpopular decision. But to me, this does look, it's got a lot of volatility in it. We still have these massive selling pressure days through here. And the buying pressure, the upward movement in yields isn't that great from this point, basically from this point onward. You just see these big candlesticks that stick out in my, they stick out to me. What that usually means is that yields are ready to go lower. This is kind of a topping pattern, I think. And then eventually yields will fall lower with time. It doesn't mean that in the short term, but we could bounce around. We could even do a double top, something on the lines of that, which could potentially be likely. But I think eventually yields will go down. The bond prices, obviously, they're down today. This is bond prices versus yields. Yields higher, prices lower. We are lower today for bond prices. I do think eventually this will head higher for a short period of time. Maybe we're putting in, a shoulder, and then this is kind of like a double head or something, and then another shoulder eventually, and then we'll go up higher a little bit for a period of time. You can kind of see that we could put in shoulders and in the NASDAQ and whatnot. We could see a period of strengthening in prices for some of these, and then an eventual move lower later on. So TYX also heading higher for yields, much like TNX, but we still have a lot of large selling pressure through this right-hand side here. TYX to TNX basically flat. So if I were to just look at this chart, generally when this goes up like that, gold and silver like it, they don't like it, and then they kind of like it. But if it's been kind of flat, so I would say gold and silver is probably slightly higher to flat based off of this ratio. This just tells us that the 30-year versus the 10-year, if it's inverting or if it's flattening out or normalizing. When it normalizes and the curve shifts down, gold does pretty well. If the curve shifts up and it inverts more, gold does not like that. Does not like a huge inverted curve. It usually means you have increasing interest rates and whatnot. But the yields today were basically flat and they went sideways. The curve just raised up a little bit. And that is something to understand because what we're going to see is relative strength in gold. So the CRB index, we're getting that bloody nose, I call it. Small down day next to a large candlestick up day. I do think that will move higher for the commodity index. That's looking good. CRB to S&P 500 ratio is just right at support. We're just kind of moving around that support. And this very well could go down if we see yields go down. Now, I'm not saying that yields will necessarily go down, but I think they're going to go higher based off of what the Fed is saying for a short period of time. But this ratio can move around. Gold up a little bit, up $5. This is surprising, and I think it's surprisingly strong. We saw a ascending wedge. That's what this wedge is there. We saw that wedge. We broke to the upside. We had a nice little move down, which is basically a retest there on that down candlestick. And we really popped higher here. Now, this I think is significant because we're at 1876, 1877. We're getting into an area where I think the momentum is starting to shift higher. At least when I spoke with another individual who does momentum analysis, which will come out soon, guys, Michael Oliver. But we've seen he said the line in the sand's 1873 and we're at 1877. So that momentum is being broken now. So I'm looking at potential investments in gold and silver, the mining companies and whatnot. So I do think there's some opportunities there. I think silver is still looking good. I know we broke to the downside here. We've got some bears, but the candlesticks don't look bad here. We've got a large up candlestick with two small ones, and that is a bullish engulfing candlestick. I would still say that this is bullish, even though we've got this kind of little pattern going on here. I know that some people said, hey, back out a little bit. And they said, you know, does this look kind of like a kind of a wedge that's forming? And, you know, if this was the case, what we should be seeing if this is a wedge, I would say that we would be seeing large down candlesticks over here. But this is holding together quite well. So I would say, let's see it. Because if gold's breaking to the upside here, I think silver will follow. What I want to see tomorrow is I want to see a large candlestick. Big fat bullish engulfing is what I want to see. If I see that, I'm all sorts of bullish. So I'm bullish right now. The way it looks, we have this large up candlestick, small selling pressure through here. We've got another answer back and then small selling pressure. I don't think the selling pressure is there. That's kind of the way I'm looking at this right now. So again, short-term trading is the hardest. I don't do it, but I used to do some of this. And what I want to see is a big fat bullish engulfing or a hammer candlestick or something like that that's coming up. That's what I want to see. And platinum is also looking strong, looks very strong. We've got large up candlesticks. Look at the green candlesticks. The size of the opening and closing price of these candlesticks is massive. That is bullish. I don't see the selling pressure through here. There's no big fat red down candlesticks anywhere to be seen in this side here. So I am ultra bullish on platinum. I think this will continue higher. This is just little, you know, pennant formation, flag formation, whatever you want to call it. I still think that looks really good. This is where I think things are going to start to heat up. XAU to gold ratio. We saw gold up today. We're seeing an outperformance of the mining companies. I'm getting ultra bullish here, guys. I'm looking for a break. That's what I'm looking for. And again, that is my line for everyone who's been in the gold and silver mining camp here. This is the line to break for happiness. Now, am I waiting for this line to break? No. I loaded up all down through here. I don't really care. I go off the chart patterns of the individual companies. This XAU to gold ratio is ultra cheap. This is down in no man's land for cheapness. So when I look at this, I think, wow, this is cheap. This could be a once in a lifetime or a couple times in a lifetime opportunity where if we get a gigantic gold bull market and gold and silver mining companies outperform gold, this could be huge. And it doesn't come very often in our person's lifetime. It really only occurred in a massive way in the 1970s and in the 1930s. I think that this is coming again like those periods. Fingers crossed. We've got the lineup with the cheap ratio of the gold and silver mining companies in relationship to gold. So I'm getting really bullish here. I don't buy when things go up. I buy when patterns get broken, when momentum gets broken, when we start to see bullish candlesticks, when we have ratios that are this cheap. This is a big opportunity, I think. GDX is starting to move higher. We're starting to break out of that resistance area like I was talking about, and we're starting to move on higher here. We need to be looking now. That's in my opinion there. We got to be looking now. SILJ also putting in the bullish engulfing right at support. The silver miners are starting to look good. If you've been part of the Finding Value Platinum membership, this past question and answer session, I've been talking about how bullish I am, and I brought up some of these companies that could give you some oomph to the portfolio. I know that we were accumulating down off this break in here, for a lot of the companies that we're in. Silver companies especially is what we were looking at. And this is looking fantastic. And what I'm kind of seeing here is kind of like a shoulder. Now, we didn't get a full shoulder engagement. You could say that this is the shoulder, the head, and then the inverted shoulder here, which is a pattern where we could maybe potentially break to the upside and have a decent sized run. Looking from a bigger picture view, and I've done a lot of ratio analysis on the channel here, SILJ is one of our really cheap, one of our really cheap ETFs. So there's a lot of opportunity here, I think, for SILJ coming up. Looking at crude oil is still in this descending wedge pattern. And I think we still have a little bit longer to go. We have not broken out. If you look at it from a weekly candlestick basis, we still haven't got the big surge in buying pressure yet. So that hasn't happened yet. So I still think there's some more, we'll call it consolidation in this pattern. And when I start to see that thing move and rotate, I'll become very, very much more bullish than what I am at today. But I'm still a huge oil bull from an intermediate to longer term view. Natural gas is slowing down on the weekly. We can see that. I know we sold off today down 8%. It's definitely getting the volatile juices flowing. This is highly weather related in Europe, weather related in America. And natural gas is a weather related thing. It could be hurricanes. It could be cold weather, warm weather, whatever it is. Right now, we're getting some warm weather, and right now it's just not in our favor. So we kind of have to take the lickings. But if you look at the overall, ETF and those types of companies, they're holding up all right. They're holding up all right. So that's XOP. That's the companies here. I think it's holding up quite well. We're still on top of the trend line break. We do have maybe a little bit of consolidation before heading higher. That's just a guess. I'm speculating, but the downtrend line's broken. It looks good to move higher with time. Might be a little bit more of a grinding type pattern. OIH is actually looking very strong. Now, I would have never guessed this, and this is why I don't trade in the short term, guys. We had a large selling pressure day here. That's that big bearish engulfing. That screams lower. We sold off hard. We came on up into this pattern here and broke to the downside. Everyone and their mom's going to say this is going lower. And that's what I would have called from a statistical probability that we were going to head lower. But what happened? What actually happened? We went higher, and this looks good to actually start to break and move higher out of this. Now, I would have never guessed that, but you know what? I'm still looking in the sector because OIH is cheap compared to everything else. And I'm still accumulating energy service companies based off the ratio and charts of the individual companies. The individual companies all look ridiculously good. And I've got a lot of companies in the portfolio, a lot of them that we've talked about during those question and answer sessions that have done incredible things. So this still looks really good. To move higher from a long-term perspective, we only have these little bloody noses, and this looks like it might be lining up to move higher. So OIH looks actually really good. Now here comes the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. I am an ultra bull on it. We did get a bearish type signal last trading session yesterday. This is a small update. We'll see where we go. We still have a pretty good drive and momentum coming out of this. So maybe that's a false signal. But again, I use this signal. If I look at this, it does look like we could potentially head lower in the short term. Doesn't mean it can't reverse quickly. URNM, this is the ETF for the uranium mining companies. It's probably one of my favorite ETFs for the uranium miners, and we're heading higher here. So the mining companies, maybe they're foreseeing something. Maybe the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust will come later, but it's looking really good. I don't see too much selling pressure. We sold off a little bit today and reversed it on up. If we were to look at it from kind of a short term, you can see this big move higher. We kind of came down and we broke that downtrend to the upside again towards the end of the day. So this really looks bullish on the short term, higher. So we've got conflicting information. URNM looks good. And then we've got the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust that's got a little bit of, we'll call it dirty underwear from yesterday's trading. So which way we're going to go, I don't know in the short term here with the splitness there, but URNM definitely looks good to move higher. TAN also moving on up. This is still being resilient. Nice, good bullish engulfing. That looks ready to go higher. Tan on the big long-term perspective, I still like it. We've got the symmetry. Left-hand side goes up like the right-hand side. So this side looks like this side. We've paused right where we think we would pause, and I think we're going to head higher with time. It looks good. And now tan is highly linked to the overall markets. So maybe the overall markets look good and could potentially go higher too. COPX laying down a fat candlestick, guys. This looks really good. We're playing this through the diversified mining companies. There's your flag pattern. Looks really good for a nice move higher, which is doing, and it's in mid-stride. You should have already been loaded up in this, actually, from the bottom down here in these bullish engulfings down there. That's the signal to get long. LIT, this guy's just bouncing around. It's slightly up today. We have to break through that resistance line. If we don't break, we could see a move lower if we don't break and we get rejected. And that's not what I'm calling for. I'm just saying it could. REMX, also right at that resistance support level. I think rare earths are something that are needed for a transition to where we want to go as a human species. Electric vehicles and all that, renewables and whatever else you want to call. But we do have a lot of selling pressure still. Are we turned around here to make a bottom? I mean, we do have kind of a bullish candlestick here. We'll see. I'm not convinced yet, but it wouldn't also prevent me from buying and cost averaging in a little bit if you're a long-term investor. SPX, again, this thing is confused. I think it needs to figure out which direction yields are going, but I will say this looks good to move higher. It's a bullish engulfing. That's where the candlestick of the opening price and the closing price close and engulf the one before it. We also have a big candlestick, which is a bloody nose. So that's a big guy with a little bloody nose and a bullish engulfing. That actually screams higher. As weird as that sounds. NASDAQ also putting in the bullish engulfing with the bloody nose, screaming to go higher. That looks really good for a potential move higher. This is the bullish engulfing. We had a nice good move higher. We put in a pattern here that broke to the downside, and we came back to where we broke to basically the beginning of this turning point. And that usually is a signal where we could break higher. That's also something I see there. So that looks good. EEM, emerging markets, I still think this looks fantastic for a move higher for emerging markets. It's really low, and with stimulus going on in China, et cetera, I think this could move higher. Now, here's something that's really weird. All right, this is it's kind of annoying to me because everybody's like, housing market crash, the home builders are going to eat it. Well, guys, we're seeing people position in the home builders right here. I don't know if Powell is yanking our chain here or what the heck he's doing, but why are people buying home builders? Why does this put in a bullish engulfing to move higher with the overall markets? The overall markets, if we were having a housing crash and it was driven by a housing related problem, if that was the case, the home builders would be putting in a top like this. It wouldn't be putting in a W bottom and ready to break to the upside. And if you were to look at something like a Lennar Corp, and I'm going to jump in here real quick and throw in Lennar Corp just to show you guys what I'm seeing. That's also putting in a nice bullish engulfing. And this here is an ultra bullish pattern. This is a long-term uptrend move that we've broken to the upside here. And then we've done a retest move. And I was talking about this potential buy in home builders when everybody else is all bearish as get out. And this does not look bearish by any means. So what's going on here? Are we going to see lower interest rates coming up? Is he talking a big game so his buddies can go buy a bunch of stock? I don't know. But someone's positioning in this, and this looks absolutely fantastic for a move higher. So that's my take on XHB. I guess I'm in the vast minority there. And usually that's where you make money. MU is also firming up a little bit, 0.76. We're coming back up against that resistance. We had some good selling pressure down here, but it looks like the buyers came in and whomped it. So that looks like it's ready to go higher. Looks good. And I'm going to shift my views. In the short term, you shift bullish, bearish, bullish, bearish very, very quickly in the short term timeframes. And that's how it works. Intermediate term, you can take more of a bullish stance because it's broken the downtrend line and we're looking for a move higher. And then when you look at a long term is also bullish. That screams like it wants to go higher. But in the short term, you get these pullbacks. That is where you can get a conflicting outlook. where you're bullish long-term, bullish intermediate term, but bearish short-term. And you're going to hear that with more experienced investors, that they're bullish, but they're bearish at the same time. That's based off of different time frames. Now, looking at copper, copper's looking fantastic. This is somewhere that you should be looking. We talked about this breaking out of this pattern here. We've broken to the upside. That is a definite breakout. And we're seeing the diversified miners and some of these other copper companies really start to go. We could see a next leg higher for copper. Now, here's another thing. You start adding all of this up together. How is copper breaking to the upside? If Dr. Copper was signaling a recession, this should be breaking lower, not higher. I know that China is reopening. That could be one of the reasons why it's bullish, but we're also seeing the home builders move higher. Guys, I'm painting a picture here on the macro from charts, from all of these people interacting with each other. So we're seeing copper higher, home builders higher. We've seen a breakout, a retest of home builders. We're seeing lumber. I'm going to tie in lumber here. Lumber breaking to the upside here. Okay, what's going on here? Why is lumber breaking to the upside? And we talked about lumber breaking to the upside in many episodes. I said this is a falling wedge, generally breaks to the upside. The green army's coming, smaller down. This is where it breaks to the upside. Short term, what's going on here? Are we seeing lower rates that are coming? Are we seeing a monetary loosening that's coming? That is kind of what I'm painting the picture. And the way that we're determining this is that we're seeing chart patterns and people positioning for this kind of monetary loosening. Maybe they're going to do QE. Maybe they're going to raise rates and do QE. I don't know. Maybe they've got some weird concoction that they're going to basically derive up here. I'm not exactly sure, but I can tell you people are positioning, and lumber's looking strong, and home builders are looking strong, and copper's looking strong. You don't see that in a crashing market, in my opinion. Iron ore up 0.72%. I know this one's kind of tough to see, but we're still in that pattern there. We've got nickel. Nickel, we'll see where this thing ends up. Nickel is kind of right at that support area, and let's see if this thing breaks either up or down. I'm in the camp that a lot of these are going to break to the upside. We've got massive shortages in absolutely everything. And what's happening is this is a W bottom. We've broken. We've got our consolidation. Generally, that's going to work its way higher. So, yeah, we could pull back in the short term, but intermediate and long term, nickel's going higher, baby. I'll just say that. Aluminum up 7%. I don't know if that's from yesterday. Sometimes these get delayed. I am ultra bullish on aluminum, guys. Ultra bullish. I'm playing it through a couple of ways. You guys know that on the membership, and yeah, it's working out quite well. BDI also. Let me get off logarithmic here. We're right doing the retest. This will go higher. It's just waiting for oil to break. That's all it's doing. Your opportunities are when they get in the corners, like they break out and they come back. This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity. Looking at Newcastle coal futures, just moving sideways. This thing's been grinding under the resistance line for a while. You can see it right there. I would say this is bullish because we came in with a lot of force and the sellers aren't pushing it lower. So I would still say that this is a bullish scenario. And then we're also seeing this. I'm using this as a form of liquidity. So if you look at it as a form of liquidity, I'm still bullish on liquidity coming into the system because Ethereum and Bitcoin are starting to move higher here. What's going on, right? What's going on? How come Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all these other ones, who is positioning in this? Now, if they're positioning in here because they know that liquidity is coming, wouldn't you see lumber higher? Wouldn't you see copper higher? Wouldn't you see Ethereum and Bitcoin? And maybe I'll say charting this stuff, and I'm really charting China's reopening and how liquidity is there. So this looks good. We're ready to break to the upside of Bitcoin even, as weird as that sounds. And everything is looking quite excellent for a potential move higher. There it is. Nice little breakout there. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Everything's looking quite strong. Copper's looking strong. Oil hasn't broken out yet. We're in a descending wedge. We're in a falling wedge for lumber. These things are starting to move to the upside. I think everything looks excellent. And I think the markets are pricing in maybe potentially a loosening of monetary conditions. That's literally what I'm seeing here. Gold, silver, platinum, those look good too. They would also be pricing in a loosening of monetary conditions. And what happens is people position, banks and the people in the know start to position. And what we're doing is we're looking at how they're positioning. That's how I'm guessing this. So that's kind of what I'm seeing in the charts. I am positioning myself certain ways to benefit from this based off of how other people are positioning and based off the chart patterns. And if you guys want to join in and see what I'm doing, definitely sign up for finding-value.com, the Platinum membership. Check it out, 5 p.m. I also have a midweek update coming out tomorrow. You guys can also listen to me talk, and I can be telling you what I'm doing. And I went over that already last question and answer session, and that is posted to the website if you want to listen to that as well. All right, guys. Hopefully you're having a good day, and I'm done. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.